Welcome to deGarisMPC. So what's that? deGaris is my family name, so deGaris, and MPC stands for mathematics, physics and computing. And the idea of this video is to introduce to you what deGarisMPC is all about and to introduce me to you, because I'll be the professor teaching you all these courses. Now, what courses? Well, they're graduate, so master's and PhD level courses in pure mathematics, that's what the M stands for, pure mathematics, mathematical physics, that's the P, and some, although a lot less, computer theory. It's more the pure mathematics of computation. So the plan is for the next decade, maybe two, I will be probably churning out large numbers of lectures on these three themes, so that it becomes possible for you for free, and that's essential, so that you can educate yourself to PhD level in essentially in math and physics and some computing. So there will be a few senior, say undergrad, a couple of junior, senior, undergrad level courses, and then first year masters, and then second year masters, first year PhD, and second year PhD. So it gets quite advanced later on. So in a sense, because these lectures are YouTube, I can go to any level I like. So in some ways I'm raising the bar, so to speak, lifting the standard of what's usually taught at universities. For example, in my own local university, in the physics department, the subject called QFT, that's quantum field theory, is not even taught. And QFT for me is a relatively low rung on a relatively high ladder of what I'll be teaching. Okay, so here's some of the topics. They're more prompts for me in this talk. So what is deGarisMPC? It's actually a tab, one of several. Here are some other tab labels. I'll talk about this in another part of this talk. But it's a tab that you click on. Now the actual website, if you want to go, is here, written up here. So Prof Hugo deGaris, all one word, wordpress.com. So you go to this website, click on the tab deGarisMPC, and then you will get a long list of lecture courses. I call them lecture sets, much the same thing. So typically, I don't know, 10, 20 maybe lectures, YouTube lectures on that particular topic. And so in this list there'll be one line per course or lecture set. So you with a link. So you click on that link. So you go through the list. Nearly 600 items there, 600 courses. So it's a huge amount of work for me in the future. And you find one that interests you, click on its link, and then that will open up, and then you'll see a description of that particular course, and in particular the textbook that I'll use for that course. And I then give you data about the textbook, so you can either obtain it second-hand if you want, in paper form from Amazon.com. So I give you the price, both new, I give you two prices, new and second-hand. Or if you prefer, and especially if you're living in a third world poor country and you can't afford even the second-hand prices of the first world countries, the developed countries, but then you have an option, you have a second option, and that is you can get it for free. You just download it from eMule. That's here, eMule.com, which is a service which provides free research papers and textbooks, which is a wonderful thing for third worlders. So this combination of camcorders, or I'm using a Handycam. So they're only about $100. So it becomes this combination of using a Handycam, putting up your videos for free on YouTube and similar institutions, and the possibility of free access to books. You put those three together and you get a very powerful combination, allowing poor third worlders to educate themselves, to educate yourself to very high level. And that's a revolution. That's a social and educational economic revolution. So I'm hoping that what I'm trying to do here with this deGarisMPC becomes an example, as a kind of model for other professors, well, particularly retired professors. So that's the prof in the website address. So prof, just short for professor. So I'm a retired professor. I retired about 2 years ago. But well, how old do I look? So you might be guessing maybe around 50 perhaps. Well, I'm pretty well almost 65 as we speak, and it's what, May 2012 as I make this introductory video in China, because I'm living in China. There's a whole story about that, go into that a bit later. So if these professors who are retired, they have more time on their hands, they don't have to do admin type stuff at normal university type work. So they now have the option of downloading, recording their lifelong knowledge. I mean, they've spent decades in their careers, their conventional waging, that's earning a wage, earning a salary, in their waging careers. And they can then record that knowledge and put it on YouTube to benefit the world. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to educate large numbers of people, because there's YouTube, right? The whole world has access to YouTube. So if you're interested and you like pure mathematics and mathematical physics, if you're bright, and in this context I use the word alpha. I spell it because it's easier. ALFA. Actually, it's the first. Well, it's ALPHA, strictly speaking, which is the first letter of the Greek alphabet. Now, alphas I define to be very bright people who have IQs, intelligences, in the top 1%. So very bright. And to be honest, if you're going to study at PhD level in pure math and math physics, which are the two toughest subjects on university campuses, then you will need to be an alpha. You will need to be bright. This is it's not easy stuff. But as I was saying a little bit before, I will start at undergrad level. In fact, you can't see it, but about 3 or 4 meters from me, on top of my piano in that direction, about 40 odd textbooks that I will use for the first batch of undergrad courses. So I'll start with the undergrad, which you'll need if you haven't studied these topics before, as foundations, as a prerequisite for doing what I call M1. That's first year master's level courses and so on. There'll probably be about several hundred M1 courses, similarly for M2, second year master's level and so on. Okay, so well, next topic, who am I? Well, let's see, from 2001, in fact that that eventful day of September the 11th, so as the Americans say, 9/11, in 2001, that was my very first working day as a professor in America. So I was an American professor for about 5 years or so. And then I got fed up being a professor in America, because effectively I was just a tax collector. I didn't like America's emphasis that the universities would just look on professors as taxable means. The university administration would like to tax your research grants. So then I moved to China. So I was a professor in China for 4 years, teaching graduate level pure math, math physics, and computer science, and researching into a field called AB, artificial brains. That was my specialty for quite a long time. I would evolve neural net modules very quickly in state-of-the-art, relatively cheap supercomputers, so about $10,000 each. Evolve tens of thousands of these very fast, in seconds each, and connect them up in interesting ways, and make artificial brains. That's what I was doing. So I was building China's first artificial brain. But I've been doing that kind of thing, so evolving neural nets, for about 20 years. And that's a long time. So over that period, my own brain, my biological brain, changed. My interest shifted, and I became increasingly bored, because when you're evolving neural net modules, they're effectively a black box. You don't understand what's going on inside them, because under evolutionary control, so I called what I was doing evolutionary engineering. So I was building stuff using, well, if you know any computer science, the technical term is GA, genetic algorithms, which is a kind of software or hardware form of Darwinism. So you're evolving random connections between artificial neurons and evolving the weights, in other words, the strength of the connections between one neuron and another. So it was all very complex. The dynamics of these evolving neural networks was way too complex to be analyzed in practice. So in effect, they were a black box. So I got rather bored by this, because there was no real theory. I mean, it was a wonderful piece of engineering. It really worked. Each module that I evolved actually, it evolved, right? It increased its ability to perform the task that I set it. And so I could specify lots of little jobs, so each little neural net module had a job. And I could evolve zillions of these things, all kinds of different little jobs, and then connect them up in interesting ways to make an artificial brain. But I got bored. I mean, after 20 years of this, I really was itching to get back to my original love, which was mathematical physics, studying pure math and physics. So I decided to retire and live off my American savings, which go about 7 times further in China, because China is much poorer and the cost of living here is a lot lower than it is in the US.